Merrick Voss stood before the rusted console, his fingers dancing across its worn keys with a practiced ease born of desperation. The dimly lit cabin of the decrepit spacecraft buzzed with a quiet tension, its walls echoing the faint murmurs of his crew, who were scattered about, attending to their tasks. "You sure about this, Merrick?" JL, his second in command, approached him, her voice a mix of concern and defiance. Her dark eyes flickered to the screen, where lines of code scrolled rapidly. Merrick didn't look up from the console. "It's our only shot. We've been sitting ducks in this zone for too long." JL nodded, stepping closer. "And if the council catches us?" "They won't," Merrick replied with more confidence than he felt. He finally turned to face her, his expression stern yet reassuring. "We've been under their radar for years, learning, planning. Today, we use that knowledge. We break out." Around them, the ship began to hum with life, systems coming online one by one, a symphony of rebellion that had been silent for too long. In the engine room, Lynn, a wiry engineer with an uncanny ability to coax life from the most stubborn machinery, shouted over the rising noise. "Thrusters are looking good, Merrick. Fuel lines are all patched up and ready to burn." Merrick grabbed the intercom. "Listen up, everyone. This is it. Strap in and brace for a rough ride. We're punching through the barrier in 15 minutes. The crew moved with urgency, each member well aware of the stakes. They were a collection of the quarantine zone's brightest and toughest, scientists, engineers, soldiers, all united by a common goal, freedom. As Merrick prepared to join JL at the navigation deck, a young crew member, Elsie, approached him, her expression torn between admiration and fear. "Captain, what happens when we get out? What's out there for us?" Merrick placed a firm hand on her shoulder, giving her a reassuring squeeze. "Opportunity, Elsie. A chance to show the galaxy that humans aren't just subjects for their experiments. That we can stand up, that we can fight. That's what's out there." Elsie nodded, her fears momentarily assuaged by Marek's conviction, and hurried off to her station. At the navigation deck, JL was already plotting their course. "Routes are set, but there's a lot of activity out there, Merrick. Council patrols are thicker than we anticipated." "We'll have to improvise then," Merrick replied, his gaze fixed on the star map. Points of light represented safe havens, narrow paths through a maze of danger. The countdown began, each second pulsing like a heartbeat through the ship. At 0, Merrick gave the command. "Now, JL." The ship lurched forward, engines roaring as they breached the invisible boundaries of the quarantine zone. Alarms blared, a harsh reminder of the chaos they had unleashed. Outside, the void of space was suddenly alive with the flash of patrol ships, their lights cutting through the darkness like sharp knives. Marek's ship weaved and dodged, an agile predator slipping through the fingers of a slower beast. "Patrol on R6. Lynn's voice cracked through the comm they're gaining. Merrick was back at the console, his fingers a blur. "Divert power to aft shields, increase speed. JL, take us through the nebula cluster. It'll mask our signature." The ship dipped and dived into the nebula, the gases swirling in vibrant colors around them, a storm of cosmic beauty that hid them from their pursuers. For hours, they maneuvered through the dangers, each moment stretching out, the tension a tangible thing. Finally, as they emerged from the other side, the space before them was clear. "We did it," JL breathed, disbelief mingling with relief. Merrick allowed himself a moment to soak in the victory, then turned to his crew, his voice carrying through the ship. "This is just the beginning. We've shown that we can defy them. Now, we have to keep moving, keep fighting. For every human still trapped back there, for our right to live free." The crew erupted in cheers, a sound of unity and strength that filled the cabin. They were no longer just survivors, they were rebels, pioneers of their own destiny. As the stars stretched out before them, Merrick felt the weight of the future, heavy but hopeful. They were alone, a single ship against a galaxy, but they were human, and they would persevere, fight, and maybe one day, they would win. The ship, now a speck in the vast canvas of the cosmos, hummed with a vibrancy that mirrored the newfound hope of its crew. Merrick Voss, captain and architect of their daring escape, paced the bridge, his mind racing as fast as the stars that streaked past the viewports. JL, always the voice of reason, matched his steps, her presence a grounding force. "We need a plan, Merrick. The Council won't just let us vanish into the ether. They'll come after us, and they'll come hard." Merrick stopped, turning to face her. "We won't just run. We'll make alliances. There are others out there who despise the Council as much as we do. We can unite them, form a coalition." Lynn, the engineer, piped in from her console, her voice tinged with excitement. "There's a gathering, a summit of sorts, happening on Carlin 7. Rebels, outcasts, and free thinkers. It's risky, but it might be our best shot to find allies." Merrick nodded, his decision made. "Set course for Carlin 7. JL, start prepping a speech. We're going to need to convince them that humanity is worth backing." As the ship set a course for new destinies, Elsie approached Merrick with a tablet in her hand, her brow furrowed. "I've been scanning the archives we took from the zone. There's something you should see. It's about the experiments, the ones the Council conducted on us." Merrick took the tablet, his eyes scanning the data. The experiments were more than just physical or psychological trials, they were an attempt to break the human spirit, to make it malleable, controllable. But they had failed to account for human resilience, for their stubbornness and heart. "This," Merrick said, lifting the tablet for JL to see, "is our leverage. This is how we show the galaxy that we're not the monsters the Council has painted us to be. We're survivors." The crew's morale bolstered by the revelation, they worked with renewed purpose, each task bringing them closer to their goal. They trained, planned, and prepared arguments for the summit. Merrick knew that words would be their weapon as much as any ship's armament. The journey to Carlin 7 was fraught with challenges. Council patrols were more frequent, and navigating the ship through less charted space brought its own perils. But under Marek's leadership, they persevered, dodging patrols and asteroid fields alike. Upon arriving at Carlin 7, the ship was immediately surrounded by a motley assortment of spacecrafts. The planet was a hub for the dissatisfied and disaffected, the air electric with revolutionary zeal. Merrick and his crew were escorted to the summit, a grand hall where species of all kinds mingled. Merrick took the stage, the weight of the moment heavy on his shoulders. The hall fell silent, hundreds of eyes on him, judging, assessing. He began to speak, his voice firm and passionate. "We come to you not just as humans, but as kin in oppression, seeking to overthrow a tyrant. The Galactic Council has lied to you, as they have to us. They fear what we can achieve together, fear a galaxy where their word is not law." Whispers filled the hall, a murmur of intrigue and skepticism. Merrick continued, detailing the experiments, the manipulations, the lies. He showed them the data, the undeniable proof of the Council's deeds. A tall, armored figure from the back of the hall stepped forward, their voice booming. "And why should we trust you? Humanity has been quarantined for a reason. How do we know you are different?" Merrick met the figure's gaze, unflinching. "Because we broke free. Not just from a physical prison, but from the fear they tried to instill in us. We ask you to judge us not by the lies woven by the Council, but by the actions we take to right those wrongs." The room was tense, a standoff of ideals and skepticism. Then, slowly, a small, feathered being from the front row stood up, clapping. The sound was soft at first, then grew as more joined in, a chorus of support that filled the hall. The armored figure nodded, stepping back. "You will have our support, human. Let us see what we can achieve together." The summit ended with alliances formed and plans made. Merrick and his crew left Carlin 7 not just as fugitives, but as leaders of a burgeoning coalition, ready to take on the Council and to forge a new path for the galaxy. As the ship journeyed back into the starlit void, Merrick looked out at the vast expanse. The path ahead was uncertain, fraught with danger and difficulty. But they were no longer alone, and in that unity, there was hope. Hope that the galaxy might one day be free of the Council's iron grip, hope for a future where all species could stand together as equals. The fight was just beginning, but it was a fight they were now ready to face. Merrick stood at the helm, the nebulous light of the galaxy casting a pale glow over his determined face. The stakes had never been higher, and the burden of leadership weighed heavily on him as the reality of their next move settled in. JL approached him, her voice breaking through his contemplation. "We're approaching the rendezvous point, Merrick. The delegates from the Geridian cluster are already there. They're anxious about the alliance." Merrick nodded, his focus shifting. Anxiety is expected. They've suffered under the Council's regulations longer than most. It's our job to show them that together, we can end this oppression. As the ship docked at the neutral station, a beacon of cooperation nestled in the free zone of the galaxy, Merrick and his crew prepared to meet their potential allies. The air was thick with the scent of ozone and anticipation as they entered the main hall, a vast chamber designed to accommodate species of various environments. The Geridian delegates, beings of towering height and covered in reflective scales, stood waiting. Their leader, Virak, approached Merrick with a formal nod. "Captain Voss, your actions have stirred the galaxy. We are here to see if the ripples you've caused can wash away the tyranny we face." Merrick met Virak's gaze, his resolve clear. "We've all been under the Council's boot for too long, Virak. Today, we discuss how we can lift it together." The conversation that followed was intense. Virak and his delegates were cautious, their trust hard-earned and easily shattered. Merrick and JL presented their strategy, a multi-pronged approach to dismantle the Council's power through sabotage, political pressure, and military strikes. Virak listened intently, his eyes narrowing as he processed each point. "Your plan has merit, but it lacks details on coordination. How do you propose we synchronize our efforts across such disparate systems?" Merrick was prepared for this. He pulled up a series of projections, showing a network of planned attacks and key points they needed to secure. "With precision and timing. We have allies in various sectors who can act as nodes for communication. We strike as one, united front." The debate continued, with each delegate voicing their concerns and suggestions. Merrick addressed each with a patience he hadn't known he possessed, his leadership galvanized by the very real possibility of forging a galaxy-wide alliance. As the meeting drew to a close, Virak stood, his stature imposing. "Captain Voss, we will deliberate among ourselves. Your plan is ambitious, and if we are to commit, we need assurance of its success." Merrick understood the gravity of the commitment. "Take the time you need. We're not just planning a revolt, we're planning a future." Leaving the delegates to their discussion, Merrick and his crew returned to their ship. The weight of the impending decision loomed over them all, a silent specter of the war they were about to escalate. Back on the ship, Elsie approached Merrick, her youthful face etched with concern. "Captain, if they decide to join us, the battles ahead will be unlike any we've faced. Are we ready?" Merrick regarded her, his expression softening. "We have to be, Elsie. It's not just about fighting anymore, it's about what we're fighting for. A free galaxy, for all species, where fear isn't the currency of power." The hours passed, and the tension among the crew grew. Finally, a message arrived from Virak. Merrick opened it, his crew gathered around, their future hanging on the words of the Geridian leader. Virak's message was concise. "Captain Voss, the Geridian cluster will join your alliance. We stand with you." A cheer broke out among the crew, the sound of relief and victory mingling in the air. Merrick smiled, allowing himself a moment of triumph. JL stepped forward, her eyes bright with determination. "It's time then. Time to show the Council that they've underestimated the will of the galaxy." As the ship prepared to depart, Merrick addressed his crew, his voice resonant and clear. "This is the beginning of our true test. With our allies by our side, we will take the fight to the Council. We will show them that oppression breeds resistance, and from resistance, rises liberation." The ship set course towards their next objective, each crew member ready to play their part in the unfolding drama of rebellion. The stakes were higher than ever, but so too was their resolve. Merrick looked out into the starlit expanse, a vast field of possibilities and perils. The journey ahead would be fraught with danger, but for the first time in a long while, hope was on their side. The ship's command center buzzed with a subdued intensity as Merrick and JL pored over tactical displays, their eyes tracing the arcs and nodes of the Council's defenses. The decisive moment was upon them, and the air crackled with the electricity of impending action. "We have one shot at this," JL, Merrick stated, his voice a steady thrum against the low hum of the ship's engines. "If we penetrate their defenses here," he pointed at a sector heavily fortified yet critical for the Council's logistical chain, "we can cripple their supply routes and create a domino effect." JL nodded, her mind racing through scenarios. "The patrols are thick. Our fleet is ready, but timing will be everything. The Council isn't expecting an attack of this scale." The strategy was set, and as the fleet amassed at the rendezvous point, Merrick transmitted the final orders. His screen lit up with the faces of their allied leaders, each representing a faction of the newly formed Galactic Coalition. "Today, we change the course of history," Merrick began, his gaze locking with each leader. "Your fleets are the key to our victory. We strike simultaneously, overwhelm their sensors, and leave no route for retreat. Are we clear?" Affirmatives echoed back, a chorus of unified resolve. As the fleets moved into position, Merrick turned to his crew. "Prepare for engagement. This will be a full frontal assault. We have the element of surprise on our side." The battle commenced with the sudden ferocity of a storm. Lasers seared through the dark, ships darted through debris, and explosions blossomed like deadly flowers. Marek's ship led the charge, breaking through the initial line of defense with brutal efficiency. "Status report." Merrick barked as his ship shuddered under a counterstrike. JL clung to her console, her voice calm amidst chaos. "Shields holding at 70%. Enemy reinforcements incoming." Marek's response was cut short by a sudden betrayal that none had anticipated. An allied ship, one of the Geridian vessels, turned its guns towards them, its captain's face appearing on Marek's screen, twisted in conflict. "Merrick, I'm sorry," the captain's voice cracked, heavy with remorse. "The Council, they have my family. I had no choice." The betrayal stung, not just for the potential shift in battle's tide, but for the personal loss of trust. Marek's jaw clenched, his next orders crucial. "Focus all fire on that traitor, disable the ship. We cannot let personal tragedy override our mission." The crew responded with ruthless precision, disabling the rogue ship, but the damage was done. The fleet's formation was broken, and the Council's forces began to push back with renewed vigor. "Regroup," Merrick commanded. "Push forward to the primary target. We can still win this." The battle raged, a dizzying dance of destruction and strategy. Marek's ship carved a path through the enemy lines, reaching the heart of the Council's defense. "Now, JL. Fire the main cannons." With a roar, the ship unleashed its full fury, the main cannons delivering a devastating blow to the Council's command station. The station erupted in a blinding explosion, its destruction a beacon of hope to Marek's forces. "Victory is ours," JL shouted, relief washing over her as the remaining Council ships began to retreat. But the victory was bittersweet. The cost of their triumph lay heavy on Marek's heart as he considered the betrayed Geridian captain and the many lives lost. In the aftermath, as they counted their losses and tended to the wounded, Merrick addressed his crew, his voice carrying the weight of their sacrifices. "Today, we fought not just against the Council but against the very fears that they have instilled in us. We've shown that even in the face of betrayal and overwhelming odds, our resolve holds." The crew stood in somber reflection, their spirits lifted not just by their victory but by the strength they had found in each other. JL approached Merrick, her expression one of solemn pride. "What now, Captain? The Council is in disarray, but they're not defeated." Merrick looked out into the vastness of space, his eyes reflecting a steely resolve. "We consolidate our forces, reach out to those still under the Council's shadow, and continue our fight. This victory is just the beginning. We've shown the galaxy that freedom is worth fighting for, and now, we must lead the way in rebuilding. As the fleet regrouped and set a course back to their base, Merrick felt the weight of leadership, knowing the road ahead was fraught with challenges. But he also felt hope, a powerful force that promised a future forged by their own hands, free from the tyranny that had once constrained them. As the dust of battle settled, Merrick stood at the command center of their makeshift headquarters, the holographic displays casting a soft blue light across his determined features. The recent victory had sparked a wave of uprisings throughout the galaxy, with oppressed systems seizing the moment to challenge the Council's weakening grip. "Captain, the latest reports indicate that the Council is fragmenting," JL announced as she entered, her eyes weary yet bright with the thrill of impending change. "Several systems have declared their independence in the wake of the battle. Momentum is on our side." Merrick nodded, the gravity of their situation not lost on him. "Good. We need to move quickly, consolidate these gains. It's time to talk about governance, about how we're going to maintain unity among so many diverse groups." As they strategized, a new message arrived, encrypted and urgent. Merrick opened it, his eyes scanning the contents quickly. The message was from the Galactic Assembly, a neutral collective of minor systems untouched by the conflict but influential in their economic capabilities. They want to broker peace, offer a platform for a new galaxy-wide government. "They're inviting us to a summit," Merrick read aloud. JL considered this, her tactical mind assessing angles. "It's an opportunity, but also a risk. We could be walking into a trap, or we could be setting the stage for a true new order. We have to take the risk," Merrick decided with a resolute tone. "Prepare the delegation. It's time to show the galaxy what a free society looks like." The summit was held on Neutralis, a planet known for its impartiality and strong diplomatic traditions. Merrick and his team were greeted with a mix of curiosity and awe by representatives of various species and systems, their alien features marked by the same cautious hope that flickered in every human eye. Merrick took the central podium, the vast assembly of interstellar representatives hanging on his every word. "We stand at a crossroads," he began, his voice steady and clear. "The old ways, the ways of the Council, sought to control and constrain. But we have shown that together, united, we are stronger. Now, we must decide what comes next." The debates that followed were intense and passionate. Merrick listened, spoke, and negotiated, always pushing for a coalition government that would not only dismantle the remnants of the Council but replace it with something equitable and just. As the summit drew to a close, a constitution for the new Galactic Federation was drafted, incorporating the principles of democracy, freedom, and cooperation that had fueled their rebellion. Merrick, elected as the first president of the Federation, stood before the assembly, the weight of his new office settling on his shoulders. "This Federation is not built on the power of one but on the strength of many," Merrick declared, his inaugural speech broadcast across the galaxy. "Today, we begin anew. We forge a path not of conquest but of collaboration." Back on their home planet, Merrick addressed a massive crowd, his words echoing across the fields and cities, reaching every corner of human civilization. "Our journey was born from necessity, but it will continue by choice. Choice to live free, to support our fellow beings across the stars, to never again allow tyranny to darken our skies." The crowd erupted in cheers, their faces upturned not just to their leader but to the open sky above, a symbol of the vast, endless possibilities now within their reach. As the celebrations continued, Merrick retreated to a quiet balcony overlooking the capital city, JL joining him with 2 glasses of celebratory drink. "To the future," she toasted, handing him a glass. "To the future," Merrick agreed, clinking his glass against hers. "May it be as bright as our hopes, as enduring as our spirit." They stood together, watching the night sky, now a canvas of peace punctuated by the twinkling lights of ships coming and going in harmony, a galaxy united, a testament to the power of unity and the enduring strength of humanity.